would go, oh wait, do that, right now, go. I like that. Directors love that because you're giving them options. You're not just sitting there like a stump, you know. They're not having to pull more ideas out of you. You're handing them options and ideas and variations on performances, and they love that. Plus, you often come across something different that's cool. You often come across a variation on a line, an inflection that's off the beaten path. It's not the instinctive, first thing that comes to your mind on the read, but it's cool. It's interesting in some way. I wish I could think of an example of that somehow. I wish I could think of a line where it was just different, but it worked. I can't. This is a very small thing. Okay, this is one thing. Caitlin always teases me about this. If I said, say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, right? How many ways do you do it, right? That's the normal performance. That's the normal way you'd say that, right? So if you see that on a script, you'd go, thank you, or thank you, thank you. Well, I had to do that as Ed for one of the video games. When Ed gets a tool or he gets a weapon, and I went, thank you. And it was just weird, but it was cute. And now, 4 years later, even still, I mean, when Caitlin or Colleen, like literally, if Caitlin and I are at a convention and I go and open the door for her, she goes, thank you. And she giggles, Or if we're doing a panel together and somebody says, I loved Fine Tsubasa, and I would go, thank you. And Caitlin would go, thank you. So that may be a kind of a lame example, but do you see what I'm talking about? There is an instinctive, kind of an obvious way you say certain things, but occasionally there's kind of an interesting way of saying it. And you capture something interesting if you find those performances. And when I work on shows, I'm always going over a line in my mind to think of, is there something here? Is there something different, something special here that I could bring to this performance that's not what you would expect? Yeah, so, sure?
How do you as a voice actor find out about roles that you'd like to play beforehand?
Word of mouth, quite honestly. Let's use a show that I'm particularly in love with right now, or on High School. A friend of mine showed me an episode of that. I had never heard of it. I knew nothing about it. But this friend of mine loved it. And she's like, oh my gosh, you have to check this out. She gave me this disc that had a couple of episodes, and I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is cute. This is funny. This is adorable. It's a funny idea. It's very entertaining. It's a great show. I normally don't know anything about shows until I'm called to come in and audition for a show. And even then, all I know about the show is whatever the director tells me. I go in, he goes, okay, it's 23rd century, and all of humanity has been forced underground, and nobody lives up on the surface, and nobody goes up there, it's forbidden. But then one guy decides to go up there, and he finds these robots up there, and they're fighting. Okay, you're going to read for this guy. Really, that's kind of, that's an audition. Every once in a while, a fan will write me and say, oh my gosh, you should so play so-and-so in D. Gray Man, or whatever show. And I'll be like, well, hey, if a studio that I work with gets it, I'd love to audition for it. But I don't know about a lot of things unless just word of mouth or somebody brings something to my attention. Naruto. As I told you guys yesterday, I almost got to play a character in Naruto. And ever since then, it's been kind of a personal quest of mine. I've got to get on that show. I want to. It's just one of those, this is one of those things in the sky. You just want to do it. You just want to achieve it. It's become like this dream quest or vision quest, And so I didn't know a lot about the show. I didn't know what characters were coming up. I didn't know what characters I might be right for. And so I asked a friend of mine.
We can provide you a list.
Well, I asked a friend of mine, what are some characters coming up that you think I would be good for? And she told me, and then I contacted the producer. I'm like, can I play this guy? Or can I try for this guy? And I'm still doing it. I mean, I'm still knocking on the door. There are several characters I've been told about and I've asked about, and unless they just hate my guts for bothering them so much, hopefully I'll get the chance to do something. So we'll see. Yes.
So the voice acting scene, I guess, isn't big enough that you would have an agent that would go out and try and find roles for you?
No.
So everything's on your own?
Anime is not. Now, if you were in LA, there are tons of voice acting work in LA. There's tons of it. And anime represents the smallest portion of it. I mean, there's anime, and then there's all the other animated shows that are on television that are prelay, all of that stuff. Everything from Family Guy to Ben 10 to Zatch Bell to, what I'm saying? I mean, tons of it. Then there are animated features. Then there are commercial voiceovers. I mean, there's a lot of, then there are video games. There's a lot of voice acting work in Los Angeles. Now in Houston, no. Dallas, no. Those are anime locations. And I don't have an agent. My agent's God. I mean, whatever opportunities he brings, he gives me. He's the one that finds me stuff. I don't have an agent, and it's kind of funny because I've been very blessed to have done as much without any agent. But all of my friends in LA all have agents because there are all these other jobs they need to get. Very few people. There are not many people that make a living voice acting. You guys. Very, very few. Very, very few. I can't think of maybe 2 or 3. And there are people like Steve Bloom. But it's not doing anime, you guys. And it's not even doing video games. You know what it's doing? It's doing commercials for State Farm or, radio spots. And you want a real sobering statistic? Every day Steve comes home, he has a whole pile of emails from his agent with auditions. He has a little recording booth in his house, and he records auditions from there. Every night he sits down and records auditions. Okay? Part of his job. You gotta throw the line out there, see if you catch fish. For every Steve gets cast for a job once for every 30 auditions. So, as many jobs as Steve gets, and he's one of the most prolific people out there, imagine how many auditions. Just the way it is. Scott McNeil likes to say when he goes in to audition for something, he wants to read for every role, even if he's not even right for it. Because as Scott McNeil likes to say, the more spaghetti you throw against the wall, the better chance is something's going to stick.
Nice.
So, you may read for something the director would have never thought. I wouldn't have thought to read you for that, but hey, that's interesting. Like what you did with that. So some have agents, some don't. And it depends on the market.